And we're in Burger King at the end of the night, and I'm there like ordering my chips. I think I was actually eating my chips, and he was ordering at the menu. And then from out of nowhere, this fan just like blindsided him and like smashed him to the floor, like full on tackle.
Hello and welcome to episode number 4 of the RugbyPass Offload show with me, Christina. And today I'm joined by Dylan Hartley and Ryan Wilson. How are you guys?
Very well, thank you.
Marvellous, thank you very much.
Have you any news for us this week?
No, very quiet. Again, seems to be a common theme with me, but Hartley shares are all-time low. Work being cancelled all over the show. BBC got kicked out of the Premiership final, and the Baa Baas ruined the Baa Baas game. So I was actually set to do work for both days. Both got cancelled, so I had a weekend at home twiddling my thumbs and whittling some wood. That was about it.
Let's talk about rugby. So let's start with the Barbarians call off after some of the players broke the COVID protocol. So obviously a lot of reputations have been damaged and a few of the players have issued apologies on social media. What do you guys make of this?
It's not those Saracens boys breaking the rules again, is it? It's not like them.
It's obviously just disappointing, isn't it? Like, it's obviously not their intentions to do that. But I think we needed the game. You know, England needed the game as a warm-up. The RFU needed the game for revenue. I think general rugby community, rugby public wanted the game and needed the game to lift spirits and whatnot. So it's just kind of disappointing it didn't go ahead. And I don't think they overtly, you know, it's not like they considered it and did something malicious. I think it was fairly innocent, something that started with good intentions. Because I can imagine in that Baa Baas camp, like the reputation and the stories that come with being part of that team is a lot of it's built around kind of that socialising element. So I think they've just tried to kind of water that right down and do something to bond. But obviously they've breached their contract. And have they even broke the law though? Have they broke the law doing what they've done? Or have they just breached the code of conduct?
You're only allowed 6 people from different households or something like that. But if they live in a hotel together, I reckon it's all right.
It's a big old household. So yeah, I think like most things in life, I think it started with good intentions and it probably just got out of control. But you know, like these boys, it's funny because like, you know, if you're in a team, you usually got like your leadership group and your senior players and your captains, and they kind of set the tone or the standard for that week leading into a game. But I can imagine when you go to the Baa Baas, it's just like a free-for-all. Like you're all kind of experienced, seasoned kind of clubmen or internationals. So you kind of left your own devices to be or do your own thing, but without someone kind of like a figurehead there kind of setting the tone and saying what's acceptable and what's not. This is how these sorts of things happen. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you got any insight into how that happened, but I think, you know, good intentions, just gone slightly wrong.
I probably think with the leadership stuff, obviously every club, like you said, or international team starts with the leadership. I reckon they've started with the social committee, which is obviously the most important thing for the Baa Baas. So they've obviously selected that and then just gone along with it. You know what it's like, a couple of beers, and I suppose they didn't really think about the implications that it would have. You know, they've had a few beers, and from what I've heard, they went out, had a couple more and a bit of dinner or something and gone back. It's not like a massive late one, your standard Baa Baas piss up. So, yeah, like you said, pretty gutting for those boys. I think they wouldn't have thought at the time, but it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because you go to the Baa Baas I understand that, the prestige of playing for them, etc. But you go to have a few beers during the week to experience getting pissed during the week and playing rugby. Have you played for the Baa Baas, didn't you?
No, I dread it because I can't do that anymore. Like, I'd actually, because, you know, they go pretty hard throughout the week. They're the hardest team to play against because it's a win-win for them. You know, like they're not expected to win. They're expected to be unstructured. They're expected to play with a smile on their face. And if something doesn't come off, there's no pressure to it. And as a team playing and preparing against them, you know they're just having the crack all week when you're like in full kind of prison camps, kind of lockdown preparation mode for a test match. So they're a difficult team to play against. I never got the opportunity. Even after those 12, how many players? 12 or 16?
Yeah, 12 or 13 or something like that.
Even after those players, and they're trying to get the game back on, I thought about firing out a tweet saying I've still got a pair of boots, so I can kind of lace up and waltz around. But no, I never had the opportunity, unfortunately.
I got a phone call.
You did?
Wagger, Nathan Hines phoned me, who was doing the forward stuff. And he phoned me on the Friday whilst I was travelling down to Ospreys and said, mate, what are you up to the weekend? I said, I've got a game tomorrow. He said, you keen to come straight to London and play? I was like,
what did you say? Yes?
I was like, I'm keen as anything, but you imagine my coach, 80 minutes against Ospreys and then playing the next day. So I walked straight into Danny Wilson and said, oh, by the way, I'm playing for the Barbarians tomorrow once we've played this game. And he told me to F off straight away, obviously. But I would have been keen, get down there. You know, the fun bit's gone, having a few beers before, but could have made up with it. You know, I trained from Wales over there. But I said, do you imagine England's faces? Me walking out to wind them all up. But yeah, not to happen. Because obviously I played under Vern, who, again, a man who absolutely loves getting boys on the sauce during the week and stuff. He was an interesting coach. That would have been good to go down there and play under Vern Cotter. He's a good man. You must know Vern as well.
Under Scotland, did you kind of midweek socialise and stuff like that?
We had, I wouldn't say midweek socialise. Probably, he wouldn't mind. I reckon he wouldn't mind. You had a glass of red with your dinner, which turned in probably 3. But we had some interest in World Cup 2015, our trip to France, which you've obviously heard Jim Hamilton talk about what happened up in the mountains. But he was the sort of man that would make you work really hard, absolutely flog you. But then at the end, you'd have a really good piss up, which I think brings the boys together, brings everyone a little bit tighter, doesn't it? So he was a good coach then. So I was gutted.
Eddie did that as well. He scheduled in midweek socials and stuff like that. And he'd, everywhere we went, there was like a bucket of beer in the middle of the room. But the boys were all petrified of it because they knew how hard training was the next day. And he had no problem. He came from the school of South Africa with all the big Afrikaans boys would drink pretty hard midweek, but then they'd get up and flog themselves the next day. And he said, if the boys want to do that, we can do that. But the floggings were, the training was that hard. The boys just avoided it at every opportunity because they're basically shit scared of training. But I think those are the best coaches, the ones that provide the opportunity for the boys to have that release if they want. Because I've been in teams, I'm sure you have, where there's rules. It's like there's no going out, there's no leaving the hotel, there's no drink, but it just constricts people. It asphyxiates the group, and people end up breaking the rules, sneaking out. This is where you get those big stories that get leaked, because you can't control people. You need people to relax and be themselves. And I thought, from my experience, Eddie was really good with that. I was always told, in camp, we had regimes not under Eddie, but where tomato sauce was taken off the table because it had too much sugar in it. And then Eddie came and he's put chocolate cake on the table. He's like, well, if you're fat, just have a little bit of cake. Don't eat the whole thing. Because as soon as you tell people that they can't have the cake, they're just going to go away and get cake from bloody down the road somewhere.
Exactly. It's common sense, isn't it?
I think just letting people make good decisions.
It's the old saying, treat men like men, you'll get men, but treat the boys like boys and you'll get boys that sneak out and do things behind your back. So it's all about honesty, isn't it, and trust.
Well, guys, do you have any stories of any rugby socials gone wrong or right?
Dwarf top sink.
I knew you were going to bring it up.
I mean, it didn't go wrong. Again, started with really good intentions. We just won a game. We were in Queenstown to have downtime, and we went to the pub. There's a free tab. It started really pleasant, a bit of team bonding, unwinding, that sort of thing. But then things just escalate, and then your moral compass kind of goes. And we basically bowled around the corner, and there was an X-base where basically a hostel with a really good bar attached to it. And the funny thing is the Welsh team and the Irish team had been there. There must have been a couple of days earlier doing exactly what we were doing. And there was a sign outside that said midget madness. And we didn't even see that. We just went to the busiest place. And we went in there, and there were some small people in there. They were performing, dancing, and we basically had a dance with them. There was no throwing whatsoever. But yeah, being the England rugby team at a World Cup with a massive media following, we basically got a lot of attention. So yeah, it wasn't really a social that went wrong, but in terms of media exposure, it was pretty damning in a way. But the little people, they loved it. They had a great time. Like there
Who
was
was the
no
coach at
throwing.
the time for that?
That was Martin Johnson.
Oh, so he would have been all right with it.
No, he was good as
Everyone's
goal.
little to that big fella.
Yeah. Now he basically said, just make good decisions. But trying to make good decisions after a few pints is obviously difficult. But no one was hurt that night. Everything was it was just good fun, but completely blown way out of the water with the Tyndall kind of link and the little people. And it's almost kind of madness that no one in that leadership group, but this is again is a sign of the times, I think, said, after this pub, we're probably going to go home, boys. We were just left to our own devices to kick on and make our own fun. So, I doubt that would happen these days, especially in the height of a World Cup.
I've been left to bring up some stuff because apparently Christina is not allowed to bring it up, but the disciplinary stuff and citing commission of things, we didn't want to get on it this early on because I know your record's pretty interesting. I've actually had a little look through it earlier. I had a little look through it. I've actually written this down because I was shocked at the amount of times you've been cited. It's unbelievable.
Did you get
away with any of them?
One.
Only one.
Yeah.
So you had eye gouging, 26 weeks, biting, 8 weeks, punching, 2 weeks, verbal abuse, 11 weeks, elbowing, 3 weeks, headbutting, 4 weeks, swinging arms, 6 weeks. It's impressive. It is impressive, but this is bringing us on to the next part, the citing commission and how ridiculous some of the things are that get brought up.
Yeah. Do you want me to go through that rap sheet or, are you just proving that you've done some homework and you know how to Google?
No, yeah, far away. Because it was 2007, the eye gouging started.
Yeah.
That was obviously the first one. But then at 2012, every year you had something cited. I thought that was actually quite impressive.
I basically made a rod for my own back off the. Basically, it was like a snowball. It got bigger and bigger and bigger. But like everyone goes, I got 6 months for eye gouging. I got accused of 3 cases. One of them got chucked out. One of them got a week ban for what they call one-upmanship, so a closed fist on the side of the face. And the third one was for eye gouging on James Haskell, and who's a very good friend of mine. And we spend a lot of time together now, so there's no bad blood there. But my only kind of explanation of that is I was going through a ruck. I was wild. I was reckless. I moved the body how I saw fit. I just moved that body I grabbed what I could and I moved it. I didn't kind of get on top of him and bowling ball style, eye gouge him. Yeah. So that's that. I got 6 months basically for that. And the interesting thing with that is that every eye gouging case after that got like 8 to 12 weeks. My ban happened at the end of the season. So they included the off season in my ban. So now they do it by games, right? So most recently, when you're playing like 2-3 games a week, if you got like a 4-week ban, it was done in 10 days. Yeah. Whereas I got 6-month ban to cover the off season. So I think if that incident happened, I'm not saying I'm a trailblazer or a pioneer, but it changed. I've seen a lot of change in the disciplinary kind of proceedings in my time. So when everyone says I've been banned for a year, I reckon I could have knocked 3 months of that off with pre-season and holiday. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the system is really dated. I remember being in there explaining how I was coached to ruck to someone, and then there's a translator in there translating to this Italian lady because they needed diversity on the panel. They needed someone from across Europe. So you needed a Scotsman, Welshman, Irishman, Englishman, Frenchman, Italian, and there need to be a male and female on the panel. So I'm there kind of explaining my rucking technique in my suit, kind of demoing my rucking technique.
You do. You have to get up and actually act through stuff, don't you?
Yeah. And there's a translator then translating my words. I'm thinking, do they understand what I'm saying? And then just like the whole formal process of it, I know there's a lot at stake, but like some of the wording they use, it's like a bloody episode of bloody Ally McBeal.
No, 100%. And that's what I suppose people don't realise, like the process that happens when you get cited. So someone can actually cite you And it doesn't have to be a complaint from the other team. There is a citing commissioner that sits and watches the game, and he deems something to be citable. He's the one that cites you. I don't know if you remember this. We were actually playing against you boys. You were playing at the time as well. And we've come down to Northampton, played afterwards. I think it's even on the way back. I think it was the next morning, because I think you have 24 hours for the citing commission.
Yeah, there's a window. If you can get to Sunday night, 7:00, you're clear.
Exactly. So I don't even remember doing it, but they've come to me and said, well, so you're getting cited. I said, what's it for? And they've said, you won't believe this, but it's for grabbing Lee Dixon's testicles. So I'm like, hold on a minute, what? Anyway, next day it's out there. I'm taking the kids to school, back of the old Scotsman up here, Ryan Wilson grabbing testicles during rugby matches. I'm like, oh, mate, what else can go wrong? So I have to get on a plane. Like you said, you have to go and get yourself a lawyer. So we have a sports lawyer that goes down with us. You take a team manager. It's a massive ordeal. And you get to Heathrow. You go to one of these...
Sofitel.
The Sofitel. You go and sit in one of these rooms, and you sit there in a waiting room like you're at the doctor's. I'm sat there with Reece Thomas, who's been done for biting that weekend. And Tim Swinson, actually, he was with us. He'd obviously played and punched someone. So I'm waiting to go in, thinking, what's going on? I think it was something like 12 weeks if you get done for grabbing someone's nuts. Anyway, you go in, you sit down, like you said, there's a woman in the room. You're about to talk about grabbing, whether it was a penis or testicles. And you're like, oh, here we go. And there's obviously, you sit down and you think, these guys are going to have a sense of humour, so it could be a funny bit here. Anyway, you sit down and they go through it, and it's really serious, isn't it? And then they say, you've taken a hold of something down there. So anyway, what happened was he's obviously trying to get around the back of the scrum to chase our 9, to put pressure at the scrum. And as all sixes do, grab hold of the 9 to try and stop him from getting away, from trying to get our 9. And anyway, where I've grabbed him, you can see in the video, I don't remember seeing it in the game, but he gives it one of those and holds onto his nuts. And I think that's what the citing commissioner has seen. So anyway, they show me the video during the thing and say, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I'm grabbing hold of the 9, trying to stop him. Well, that's an active foul play already. You're not allowed to grab hold of him.
That's reckless.
But it's rugby. That's part of the game. Anyway, so they go on and they say, listen, do you know what part of him you grabbed? Was it, what part? And they want me to answer. And this woman sat there in this thing, and I'm like, surely looking at the manager, trying not to laugh. And I'm like, this is a joke, waiting for the cameras to come out. And they said, can you please tell us? And I'm like, well, it's something in the lower region. I'm not sure if it's his penis or his testicles. And I'm trying to do this with a serious face. Anyway, they're like, well, we've actually got Lee Dixon on the phone right now, so we'll call him. So they phoned Lee Dixon whilst I'm sat in this hearing, and they said, we're going to speak to him. He's answered the phone. Hello? Oh, yeah, it's Lee here. Hi, Lee. Yeah, we've got Ryan here. We're in this disciplinary here in this citing commissioning stuff. Listen, we'll get straight to the point. Obviously, he took a hold of you. Can you explain to us where he grabbed you? And he's gone all awkward. He's like, well, just, in the lower region. And they're like, yeah, but can you be exact, please? Can you tell us exactly where he's grabbed you? Because we need to know, was it the leg or... And he said on the phone, he said, listen, I can't really speak at the moment. I'm at a kid's birthday party. And they're asking him he grabbed me by the nuts. And he's basically, defending it. He said, listen, he wasn't looking. He's grabbed hold of down there. He might have caught a testicle. And the whole time this is going on, I'm sat there, have to be deadly serious. No one is laughing. It's the most serious thing I've ever been involved in. And you're just thinking, this is madness. I've been brought all the way down here. And Lee Dixon didn't even care. He was going, listen, I've got no problem against it. He must have liked it. I think he did enjoy it. So that's my whole thing on disciplinary is you get cited. They don't even use common sense to go to the guy and say, listen, what actually happened? Did he grab hold of your nuts? Did it hurt? Did he do it on purpose? They just sort of send you down there, and I suppose it's a job for someone else, isn't it?
Well, Dylan, on your rap sheet that Ryan kind of listed out there, biting was one of them. So is biting a part of your rucking technique as well? Or
look, I know it was on one of your Irish players that your other job was Irish welfare, but we were playing Ireland one year, and Stephen Ferris came in. I was competing on the ball because I'm a jackal specialist. Doing my job, slamming the ball in the ruck, and I get cleared out or attempted clear out, and I've got nothing else to say other than someone's tried to clear me out. His hand ended up in my mouth, and I've bit him. Like, if someone puts their hand in your mouth and pulls your head, naturally, I think you'll bite. I didn't even consciously clench my jaw. I think it's just one of those things. You know, when you hit your knee and it does that reflex thing. I reckon if I put my hand in your mouth and pulled your head, you'd probably bite. So I just said, like, look, it happened. Like, I didn't even mean to do it. Like, we're playing big boys game here. You're clearing me out. You're doing what you need to do. And they kind of said, there's any chance your hand could have been in his mouth? And he said, no, he sourced my finger at the bottom of a ruck and bit it. I was like, that's outrageous. And I think the panel, for the first time in my disciplinary career, actually noted that his hand could have been in my mouth. But they said, Mr. Hartley, you have pleaded guilty and you have done it, so we have to ban you. And I was like, so where's the common sense here? It's like, I don't know. But yeah, there's the context around that. I'll take that one.
On to the Guinness Six Nations, and Ireland's 50-17 win over Italy means they now need a bonus point win in Paris to guarantee the title. If Ireland don't get a bonus point win, England need to beat Italy by 23 points. How do you guys see it all panning out?
England have to go to Italy and win. I mean, Italy have, at their 4 games, they've shipped 40 points a game pretty much, except against Scotland, 17-0. But every other game, it's like 40 points, 40. What was it, 50 at the weekend there? 35 points. So I can't see England going over there and not getting a bonus point. I just don't think it's possible.
I think the danger with that is, though, you've been involved with these games where you know you've got to score 4 or 5 tries. You chase 4 or 5 tries and you end up playing, a stupid game. Whereas I think if England go there with the mindset to win the game and play really well, the tries will come off the back of that. And this is where I think, everyone's calling for Ben Spencer, Dan Robson, at 9. This is where, your Ben Young's playing his 100th test, that sort of experience and playing a good, structured, a proper game of rugby, sticking to the game plan. Someone like Ben Young's, that experience, that will be pivotal in the way that they play. And without kind of people like George Ford and potentially young Jacob Umaga getting a game, you're going to need those kind of key guys. France, Ireland, what do you reckon? Christina, what do you reckon?
Oh God, I'm nervous. Was it 2 years ago was the famous drop goal in Paris? That was an exciting memory, but I'm hopeful. I think they can do it, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I don't know. I reckon the French would do it, but then again, there's no fans there. I reckon that's one of my favourite places to go and play over at Stade de France. When you go there, it seems like it's in the middle of nowhere. You go on the coach and you end up going underground, and you end up coming into the changing rooms through some underground tunnels. And then you come out into the changing rooms and you do your warm up inside a massive changing room. Basically, you can go out on the pitch and do a little bit, but you come back into the changing room obviously before the anthems. And there's not that many people out on the pitch when you're doing the warm-up. There's not many people in the stands. And suddenly you go back down into those changing rooms and you come out and the atmosphere is incredible. So that whole build-up you sort of miss. So all you know is when you walk out for the anthems is suddenly what's the capacity there? 70, 80,000, isn't it?
I'm not sure, but make the most of it, mate. Pinch yourself next time you get the chance, because when you retire to the media world, you're in the trade entrance next to the skips. You get dropped off in a stinky BO Uber out the back, and you're going to walk about 2 kilometres to gate Z. And it's not as glamorous, mate. So make the most of it.
Dylan, going back to the England and Italy game, do you have any fond memories of some Rome trips?
No fond memories. Just the added pressure. I don't know if it was pressure or expectation, but we never lost. England have never lost to Italy. And I think when you're a player and you have that responsibility or that fear as well, you don't want to be that team that ever lose to Italy.
So you guys don't get to see any of Rome or any of these places. Is that just more so for the 24th and 25th man? Do they get to kind of go out a little bit, or?
I don't know. I think as soon as you give grown men, especially by themselves, grown men are responsible. But as soon as you give a group of grown men, as we've seen with the Baa Baas, time to socialise, things can go wrong. We talked about this in the intros, didn't we, Ryan? It's not the glamorous sort of travel the world and go see all the attractions and stuff. It's hotel, conference centres and stadiums.
Yeah, no, exactly that. You get out for a coffee here and there, and Rome's probably the best place to nip out for a coffee. But yeah, like you said, there's always something on. The coaches tactically put those little meetings in, don't they? Even like the wives and girlfriends will get put in another hotel, and they're always hassling, yeah, come and meet me for a coffee. But that's when you tell them you've got a meeting.
Was that for Scotland, like wives and girlfriends? Was that like a sideshow? Was that a bit of an issue?
In terms of
just like a distraction, like some guys seem to manage it really well, but then you've got like some other halves that seem to be I don't know the word. Expectations rule the roost. Wear the big trousers.
Oh, I know what you mean, because some guys are literally on a lead, and when their missus is there, they're expecting them to do everything with them. Well, we're there to do a job. You can't go over there. So the girlfriends and wives, you get some of them that go over there expecting to be able to see you all the time, come and stay in the hotel. You're there to do a job, and and everyone's on the same page. So some of the girls don't like it, I think.
No, I feel a little bit bad about this because Mrs. Hartley never went to an away game. Maybe I'm old school rugby, but I just saw it as work in the end. And loads of other people, I think it's like a generational thing as well. But I just didn't want the distraction. I knew how busy my schedule was. I didn't want to have to cram in a ticket drop-off, a coffee, sitting in just another hotel reception, just shooting the shit, whereas I could be getting physio, I could be preparing for a meeting, I could be resting, I could be spending time with the boys. I just saw it as work, and I just know that there's so many guys that are affected, and there's this kind of traveling contingent that are only there for Instagram. They're like there to... No,
go on, go for it.
Keep going.
Go on.
No, I'm just saying, like, I question some of, there's obviously supporters and people that want to support, but I think there are some that kind of piggyback on the lifestyle, to portray the lifestyle of a wag potentially. Geez, I'm in pretty deep here. But I just question, like, the support. Are they actually there to support? Or are they just there to have a good time and share the experience? I don't know. There's no right or wrong, but for me, it was work. I was away to do a job. And for home games, it was a thing of convenience for me to see my kids and my wife and, do that sort of thing.
Dylan, did your wife ever want to go to an international game away, or did you just shut it down?
No, I think when you've been around it for a while, like the glitzy dinners after don't become glitzy dinners, and you understand with media commitments and whatnot, it's not, you don't actually have that much time. It's just not what you think it is. Again, it all looks good. It's Instagram versus reality. You get a couple of photos and it looks great, but the reality of it is we wouldn't see each other anyway. So,
yeah, it's more for the girls to go on a little break. Whereas I'm the same. Bex didn't get to many of them because we've got 3 kids. So our kids pretty young, so we've always been stuck with them. But she's got away to a few of them. But yeah, it's the same sort of thing. They can go out and do stuff with the girls, but really it's a girls' weekend away, and you see them after the game for a bit.
I would assume that's just the perks of seeing a rugby player, is the fact that you can get to go to all these nice places and have that fun. I think that sounds great. And I think it's become, I think with the wives and the girlfriends, they've become like their own little squad, and they tend to travel together and they have their groups, which I think is really nice. They have their own sort of support bubble when you guys do go away. So
like what happens on a Friday night, like, and they all go out for dinner, then end up in a nightclub, and so gets too drunk, and then, that partner's up at 2-3 in the morning worrying about that player. And then the talk the next morning is all about that player's partner getting too drunk. And I'm like, we should just be talking about rugby. You guys should be focused on this test match. And all of a sudden, this external thing, a controllable thing, has been brought into the camp. So for me, it was all about controllables. And that's why I looked after my stuff. And I purposely thought, if I start bringing my family along and making it look really comfortable, and this is just the way I did. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but then others would follow suit because I was a role model or a leader. People would be like, okay, so Dylan's doing that. So I purposely just kept her far away from it. And I feel really bad for it because maybe she could have come and experienced some of those nicer things and done that. But it worked for me. I just treat it like work. And yeah. And I especially think like away games, like that's a chance for a team to be a team, to bond, to come together, to, you know, you work so hard during the week, you play a game, like you put like yourself through physical and mental kind of attrition or whatever you want to call it. That's your chance to go together as a team. And I'm not saying like celebrate that, but just enjoy downtime together as well. And there's too many times, you know, where that's affected. And as soon as you put the girls and their guys were pulled off, and that kind of core or that bonding time gets broken up. It's a real old school kind of way to look at it. But I just think away trips were for the boys. And I'll stand by that, you know.
I feel like if you were given the chance to coach England, if Eddie just called you tomorrow and said, look, you take over the reins, I think the first thing you'd implement is just you'd say to the guys, no girlfriends, no wives or girlfriends. They're not coming. Keep them out. Get them away.
This is a thing you grow. Like when I was younger, I was staunchly that way when I was a young captain. But then you grow and you have your own family, and then those you understand. So that there are times for family, there are times for kids, there's times for partners, socials. But there are certain times like, you know, winning a Grand Slam in Paris where it should just be for the boys. And, you know, then there's this whole other dynamic that you're trying to manage. It's just... that
part that you mentioned, Christina, about the girls becoming a little group, that happens at club level, I'd say. That's really important at club level, is creating that family environment, getting the girls together, making sure they're a tight-knit group, because you spend all year with these people. So at club level, I reckon that's probably where you see that more. International level, maybe not so much, because everyone's coming from different places, don't know each other as much. So that's something we, you know, especially after Dave Rennie, before this COVID stuff hit, he was always massive on that. His wife was amazing, Steph. She used to get in there and make sure in the team room, the girls had wine and they were all looked after, you know, make sure all the kids were there, organising social events. It's obviously a massive part of, you know, you're a family. You've got guys from all over the world that don't have family here. So it's trying to create that. So you probably see that at club level, but not so much at international, I'd say.
Right, Ryan, that chintzy IKEA house that you built, your wiring's a bit dodgy and your laptop cut out. Welcome back.
Thanks, mate. It's only because you were so busy slagging all the wives off.
Not the wives, no way.
Okay, let's move it back onto rugby. So Wales lost against France in their warm-up international. So that's a fourth loss in a row under Pivac. Are they missing Gatland and Edwards?
Calm down. Like, you can't compare. Like, if they lose, like, everyone's just like panic, get rid of the coaches. Like, he's got to put his stamp on the team. He's got to have time. And everyone's come off the back of this COVID thing. So I think, like, when you're talking about like fourth or fifth loss in a row, who cares? Like, you can only judge them on now. Like, there is no form guide before this. And if Wales want to rebuild under this new coaching thing, like, you just got to give it time. Because equally, if France lose that game, everyone's like, oh, this French coach, we need to get rid of him. It's like, just calm down a bit. Like, and stop comparing, because it's the past. You can't compare with the past. I mean, we can, because we're fans. Again, I'm just rambling, but just everyone just calm down.
What do you think, Ryan?
The other point is Wayne Pivac, another Kiwi that absolutely loves a piss up. So again, COVID has ruined that. He's not able to get his boys together, have a good piss up, get them tight as he wants them. I reckon that's another one. So I wonder how they go. They'll be all right though this week. Like Dylan said, you know, it's one loss. They'll be all good. Another good man, John Humphreys, who was our coach at Glasgow. He's the forwards coach, so he'll be down there fixing things. They'll be all good. I'm sure they will. But they've obviously got a tough opponent coming up.
Ryan, do you have any favourite memories of playing Wales in Wales?
I haven't got many fond memories, no, of playing down there. We've always lost. The last one as well was pretty disappointing, because it was the whole Dollyweir Cup is what they call it now, and it was the first time we were playing for that. So, no, not many fond memories down there.
Well, what are the Welsh players like compared to the English, the Irish or the Scots? What are the big differences?
They're the only ones I get on with, actually.
There we go. Do you not get on with any of the Irish players?
We're not great mates, me and the Irish. No, I think it all stems from probably Zeebs' mates from Munster. Leinster boys are all right, but yeah, I think it's probably the contingencies from Munster. I don't think I'm a very liked man there. So
why does everyone in Munster hate you?
I actually don't know. some of probably my favourite games for Glasgow are against Munster, because they're so brutal and like there's a lot of, it's a good game. It's a very fierce game, I'd say. And for some reason, I don't know, I just don't get the idea they like me. Old mate Peter Armani doesn't seem to get on with me too much, and we'll have to wait for Zeebs to get on to confirm some of the stuff. But I know there was a little bit of controversy when he followed me on Instagram from some of those boys. So we'll have to wait till he's on to have a chat about that. But yeah, I know that the Munster boys aren't that keen on me.
Did you hear about the story with Chris Ashton in Munster and Burger King?
This is brilliant.
Go on.
Basically, I don't know if I'm liked or disliked in Munster. I don't really care, if I'm honest, but guilty by association, basically. I was out one night after a game. We had a couple of ding-dongs in Munster over the years. Loved it. Loved going out there afterwards, having a social. Like, real good town, rugby town. And we're in Burger King at the end of the night, and I'm there, like, ordering my chips. I think I was actually eating my chips, and he was ordering at the menu. And then from out of nowhere, this fan just, like, blindsided him and, like, smashed him to the floor, like, full-on tackle. And the whole pub started chanting out, "Monster, Monster." And I did nothing. I was just, like, there eating my chips. I thought it was hilarious. We got kind of, like, booed and cheered out at the same time. I thought it was hilarious until we got outside, and then people started throwing glasses at us over the bridge, so we had to run home back to the hotel. But, yeah, good rugby town. Thanks for the hospitality, Munster.
Yeah, bloody yeah, sounds like it. Was that Cork?
That would be Limerick City for sure.
Limerick.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. I love a bit of that.
Oh my God. I'd say, yeah, you would have been in your element, Ryan. The guy actually rang in to some other podcast last year. He told the story.
Yeah. He's like famous, that guy.
Yeah, he called in.
He's basically, he's trading off that, like, business is booming in Limerick after that. He's got, like, a statue outside Burger King. No, Chris Ashton basically, with no help from me, peeled himself off the floor, tail between the legs, and sulked his way out while I kind of had my burger and chips with me. But yeah, then we got outside, pint glasses thrown at us, had to run.
The guy wasn't he like half the size of Chris as well? He wasn't massive.
Yeah, this is hilarious, right? Like, I don't know how big the guy was, but just like the dwarf tossing thing, imagine if we had a couple of beers, because we'd had a couple of beers that night, but imagine if we had blindsided tackled a fan in Burger King. Like, it'd be all over the press, wouldn't it? And just because it's Chris Ashton and probably me as well, it's acceptable to do. Luckily he wasn't hurt, Now Chris always finds himself in these skirmishes. He finds conflict a lot on and off the field.
He's quite mouthy, isn't he?
He's from Wigan. Anyone that I've ever met from Wigan is really interesting.
Right, now, how impressed were you with Scotland's win over Georgia at the weekend?
Yeah, I was impressed. I was probably more unimpressed by Georgia. They weren't great, were they? But it's good to see Scotland doing well. Probably points to make the three. I think there's 3 tries by the hookers, driving maul. You probably, if you were the Georgian team, looked at the first 2 maul tries, where I think it was 12 or 13 people jumped in there and thought, right, we'll stick a few more in to defend that. But they didn't, and they did it again and again. So again, JD, the forwards coach from Glasgow, he's now the forwards coach for Scotland. And that was his first game in charge, actually. So brilliant to see that. And then again, obviously, to see Finn back with Scotland is always exciting. So he looked like he was enjoying himself, smiling away out there. I don't know if you watched it, Dylan, but you probably would have missed that one, wouldn't you?
No, I watched Tier 1 rugby.
Oh dear, Ryan.
No, I don't even know when it was on. I watched the Premiership final.
Mate, it was on Friday night at 8:15, something like that. Was it 8:15 or something stupid like that?
Yeah, that's a late enough time.
Probably on pay-per-view or something like that. I don't have.
No, it was. Do you know what? It was on ITV4 or something like that. It was a weird channel it was on. But yeah, listen, the boys did well, and interesting to see how they go this week against Wales.
How disappointed are you not to be part of the Scotland squad at the moment, Ryan?
Do you know what? My gut feeling leading up to it after the World Cup, I wasn't involved. And honestly, my gut feeling was, I won't be involved again, and quite looking forward to a week off. And then you tell yourself that, and you make yourself think, well, there's no chance I'll be involved. And then you get to it, and there's part of you that's like checking your emails and thinking, well, I think I could be in there. I played all right at the weekend. And then you've got people saying, oh, you played well at the weekend, Will, so maybe you got a chance and all this sort of stuff. So there's something still in there that is, wants to play for Scotland, obviously, and hoping and expecting. And then I got the phone call from Tooney. I can't remember when I got it, but he sort of phoned me and I answered and just said, good news or bad news? And he said, no, bad news. So,
are you concerned that could be your international career done, or are you still hungry for more? And can you park your ego? And are you the sort of guy to chase a coach like Gregor and be like, what do you want? What do you need? What do you want to see? Are you going to chase and be really active and pushing your case? Or are you just going to go away, get your head down and play? What's your style?
Nah, I wouldn't say my style's to chase.
But if you don't chase, he doesn't know that you're thinking that way. I'm giving you some career advice here for free, my friend.
Mate. I appreciate it. But listen, like I said, I wasn't. I don't know why. I just didn't expect to be in there. So that's a worry to start with. And then, but I want to be in there. I want to be playing for Scotland. Everyone wants to be playing for the country, and I think that I've got plenty more to give. I'm only 31. I'm probably hitting my prime. So I don't know. There's always hope in there. And listen, he said to me, I think you've been playing well, and gave me, the stuff that they normally tell you. So I'm not giving up hope yet, mate. But that's why I've got to be careful what I say on this podcast. Yeah,
I just see you as you got this kind of big, burly, kind of relaxed, I almost want to say charismatic exterior, but it's kind of interesting to hear you say that you really care. And that's why I think, it's not hard to just have that conversation with the head coach and just let him know you're still there and you still want to play, you still got international ambitions and you want to contribute to a team. Mate, get on the blower.
He knows that. I told him that. I said to him, I still want to play. Because that was my fear. I had quite a few people after the World Cup when I didn't get selected for the Six Nations saying, you had a few people retire, Greg Laidlaw, Tommy Seymour. And when you're not involved, people go, oh, hold on. And a lot of people thinking I retired. Some people coming up to me saying, have you retired from international rugby? Or you see it on social media and stuff, is Ryan Wilson retired? And you're thinking, shit, like, people think I'm a lot older than I am, I think. Quite a mature man, Dylan. I think that's the problem.
That's the beard.
Yeah. So, yeah, listen, I've got more to give, I reckon. And I told him that. And I said to him that that's the one thing I don't want you to think is that I'm done with international rugby. I'm still desperate to be in there. So you never know. I might listen to this and we'll see where we go.
Eddie Jones has named his 36-man England squad. What do you make of it? Are there any names that are missing from the list?
As Eddie always says, it's the best squad that's available for him to pick. And again, it's very subjective. Before we get into who is there and who is not there, more importantly, it doesn't matter what we think. He is the ultimate fan. He gets to pick his team. But I think that the most notable ones are probably the Simmons brothers. They obviously had a great couple of weeks with club doing the double, and young Jacob Umaga. His inclusion's, I think, brilliant. But again, I think just having him there to experience that environment, to grow as a player, to be comfortable in that environment, I think is a long-term option for England, along with the likes of Joe Simmons, and there's plenty of other kids coming through. I think it's just a great experience for young Jacob.
Do you think Jacob got in ahead of Joe Simmons because we've been talking Joe Simmons up too much in the podcast? Like, do you think Eddie's been listening?
I told you, the more media hype there is, and Tony Rowe at Exeter he's been firing a few spiked words. I don't know about spiked words, but just challenging the RFU, and there's a bit of noise coming out of Exeter, and they've done some great stuff the last few weeks. But maybe things like that don't help. But equally, like, Eddie's sort of guy. And I saw a clip of him saying he's been doing a lot of miles, watching a lot of rugby. And there's one thing he said that I picked up on. Like, he watches players, not when they play, but when they come off the field. He watches players when they warm up. He's always assessing things. And this could be one of those things like he did with Mauro. And funny enough, he kept Mauro against Italy a few years back, but he just waited and waited and waited. He could be watching or waiting for a reaction from these guys. You know, are they going to throw their toys out, or are they just going to play that nice political game like Ryan's playing at the moment and get their heads down and work hard and say they want to play for their country? So, look, it's just trials and tribulations of international sport. You know, if you put Sam Simmons in there, who do you displace? Not Ben Spencer, Earl or Vunipola, who do you kick out? It's like, you know, I say we as an England supporter, and we're blessed with kind of talent in that back row.
Did he ever do that thing where they film the bench with England?
I think they do it from a coverage point of view, because I see on Twitter, you know, like reactions from the bench and stuff like that. But I've never, you know, I've been in camp where stretching sessions have been filmed, things like that. You know, the way you conduct yourself, that's what people forget about. Again, just commenting on that England environment and what I experienced is people think that training is strenuous and the games are, but it's the off the field stuff.
Yeah, man,
almost like the 9 till 5, then the 5 till 9. It's even like how you conduct yourself, how you dress, how you conduct yourself in the food room. You've always been watched, you know, like you always, you know, who's been in the analysis room today. It'll be noted that you haven't done, you know, we got to a point where we had like a tick box, you know, who hasn't taken their supplements in the morning. There's so many who hasn't completed their wellness form. It's like, how professional are you? Do you, you know, if you're not professional, that means you don't want to get better in some head coach's eyes. So like, you are working or acting the whole time. You don't get in your car and bugger off home and unwind. You are there, you are performing the whole time. And that's why I talk about that mental attrition about international sport. It's 24/7.
Ryan, is it like that in the Scotland setup, or is it a little bit less intense?
Yeah, no, I'd say it's the same. I mean, I think it was, we had a guy come in who did some stuff on Pep Guardiola, and he shadowed Pep Guardiola and what he did at Barcelona. And Pep Guardiola used to film the bench and see the reactions when players scored, etc. And anyone that wasn't celebrating was gone the next season. So I remember him talking about that, and Tooney ended up doing that. But it almost felt a bit fake in the end, because you get people knowing the camera's there and then over-egging the pudding, you know? That's the only thing with that. And then on the side of watching how players are all the time, the problem with things like that is you've got Finn Russell. If you watch Finn around camp, around when he's on the pitch, some people would look at it and be like, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He doesn't do the analysis stuff. It's because Finn almost masks it over. He does it all in his own time. You know, he takes a computer and he'll look over stuff in his own time when people aren't there watching. Whereas you get the people that come in, sit down on the computers, and they're watching for a coach to come in. There's the coach, right? You see me on the computer, happy days. I can get out of it now. Whereas Finn genuinely cares, but it doesn't come across like that. So he'll do stuff in his own time and things. So it's an interesting one, because if you get coaches like that, then you've got to fully know the player, haven't you?
Well, guys, that is it from us. So thanks to Ryan Wilson and Dylan Hartley, and thanks to you for listening. More offloading next week. Make sure you are subscribed to wherever you get your podcasts so you get the show as soon as it's released. Don't forget to leave us a rating and review, and check us out on YouTube as well. Thanks, guys.